Well, hello everyone, and welcome along to what is destined to be a frantic evening of racing. The Next Level Racing Team Fordzilla Mustang Madness community event. It is invitational, it is going to be crazy. We've been invited as well, not to take part, but to commentate on. But I have no idea what to expect. My name's Lewis McGlade, alongside me is Cameron Roger, and one thing we do know is we're going to have a lot of fun this evening.
Yeah, we certainly are. We've got a very interesting format along with the car and track combination as well. We've got not many rules going on with the racecraft as well. So hopefully we're going to see a lot of action and have a really fun evening.
Yeah, we're taking out NASCAR Mustangs around Red Bull Ring, because why not? That sounds like fun to me. And yes, it is going to be absolute chaos. We'll discuss the format a little bit later on, but first off, we're going to touch a little bit on the prizes, because as much as they're out there for a little bit of fun, they are racing for a couple of prizes to see what's going to take them through to the top. You can see on your screen here, if you win the event, you'll get a Next Level Racing GTElite Ford GT Edition, ES1 Ford Edition seat, as well as Team Fordzilla hoodie, cap, and socks. I'll take a Team Fordzilla hoodie, just saying, by the way. I'm always loving picking up merch from teams and such. P2 gets themselves a Next Level Racing HF8 along with the same Fordzilla hoodie and socks. No cap for you. P3 will get themselves the cap and the socks. That's the cap stolen from second place, don't worry about it. And then the fourth will get the cap. Fifth will get the socks. So there is some decent prizes, for winning overall, and then a couple of little ones being handed out for those a little further down. To be fair, Cam, that's not bad for an evening's work. Just a little bit of fun.
Absolutely, that's a great prize, to be honest. And also yourself, as in the bottom right hand of the screen, you can get yourself 5% off at nextlevelracing.com as well with that code FordXNLR. So if you yourself watching on want to get a cheeky 5% off the website, so both the drivers today and the viewers can get themselves involved with this next level action.
Yeah, exactly. And why not? Here we are in practice. They're getting ready for qualifying. Now, qualifying, Cam, let's talk a little bit, just touch on the format just a little bit as to how that's going to work, because obviously we're going to go for a qualifying and then we're going to go through 2 races, right?
Absolutely. So your normal open qualifying session where we'll see the drivers try and set their fastest times, and of course that will set the grid for the first race, Heat 1, which will be 10 laps around here, so sprint race style format, where obviously everything is going to be left on track. So we're going to get absolutely every opportunity being taken. Then we'll have a full reverse grid, which is pretty interesting. You're going to see the fastest drivers go all the way to the back for another race of 8 laps. And that race in particular is going to be pretty crazy, because when you get the fast guys trying to come past the slow guys, that is always when carnage ensues sometimes. Yeah,
you can see some of our drivers on here. Again, it's an invitational event, so we're going to see some of the very best in sim racing. You might recognize quite a few of these names from the higher up echelons of sim racing, along with some people that are relatively new is probably not the right way of putting it, but they're not experienced with the highest levels of grid. We're going to see a large disparity from the front of the grid to the back of the grid, and that is exactly what this event is all about. It's about getting everyone together and having a bit of a banter-filled evening.
Absolutely. The top iRacing driver, I believe, is Jose Soraya, who's in second place at the moment with 7.6 iRating. And we do have drivers a bit lower down on 600 iRating. So that is quite a big difference. And to be honest, that is going to be quite interesting to see actually how that basically works out to be in terms of lap time difference when we get to the qualifying session. Then of course in that reverse grid race as well, it's going to be a bit tricky, I think, to navigate some of the traffic as such, if you want to call it that.
Yeah, it's going to, like I say, I did notice, by the way, there was a couple of people coming into this where I was looking at their iRating, which they didn't have one, which I was like, right, okay, fair enough. And then their safety rating, which was rookie 2.5. Do you know what that means? They've not done a race yet, so yeah, I'm still, maybe it's a Smurf account. Yeah, let's hope that anyway. But that's again, that's what this event's all about. Seeing, say, Jose Soria, who's one that's well known from the towards the upper end of sim racing, Steve Wilson as well. Blake Reynolds, Brandon Hawken, I've seen plenty of times. A couple of people they representing, Fordzilla and such. Abel Torres, Peyo Pev, Jose Iglesias, all well known within those kinds of ranks. Peyo Pev's more from our neck of the woods, outside of iRacing. He's plenty rapid on this platform. I get the feeling this is a wild step into the unknown for quite a lot of our drivers, because not too many would have taken this NASCAR around this circuit before.
Yeah, we did see in the eNASCAR series, they came over to Europe for the Monza without chicanes a couple of weeks ago. But let's see how this translates to Austria, because, of course, here at the Red Bull Ring, there's quite a lot more corners, and there's obviously those sort of 90-degree long corners, which this car's actually kind of designed for in many ways. Of course, we're in the roads course specification, but still, I think it should prove to be a really good race, to be honest. And the fact is, track limits here are kind of like whatever you want to do in many ways, so we're going to see the liberties being taken.
Yeah, especially with the instant limits that are there, i.e. There isn't one. Again, that's part of the event. There is no instant limit in effect, which means turn one. I don't know about you, Cam. The race start, turn one's almost flat for me. I would have practiced that. I'd be like, right, how do I get through turn one by using as little track as possible? And I'm saying that as a joke, but like genuinely, seriously, because if someone's coming in with a hot head of steam down into that first corner, or even down into turn 3, you're asking for trouble, mate.
And also, it's only a 10-lap race, so you don't have too long to get around here. We're looking at about 1.5 minutes a lap as well, so not the longest race in the world, about 15 minutes. And as you say, you've got to be making those overtakes when you can. And as well, I believe damage is off as well, so there's going to be some side-to-side bumping and barging, and people are going to be certainly trying to get down the inside, but that, of course, comes with the territory of this car. So as obviously we look through practice, the drivers now will be trying to do their qualifying laps, but when we get into the racing, and obviously the prizes are there to be won, we know the competitive nature is going to come out.
Also, I did forget, I can't remember for the life of me how old Abel Torres is, because I'm pretty sure it would scare the pair of us. I cannot remember for the life. I genuinely think birth year is, I think it is Abel Torres is the one whose birth years, I think it's like 2010. Might even be later than that. Oh, we're getting old, Cam. We are getting old.
We are old.
Especially up in 4th place.
Yeah, there's quite a few racers now that are getting to the point of actually being born since iRacing was first released,
which was
in 2008, I think it was. So about 15 years old now. So we are getting to the point where that is a thing, which is not good for our age, but certainly it's great to see drivers of all age getting involved. We see there Garrett Viton there, number 22 machine coming through. Interesting, Lewis, we talked about this just in the pre-show about drives with like direct drive wheels. He's got what looks to be a G29 there. That is pretty interesting in this day and age that people are still whipping those wheels and doing a good job with it.
It does look like a G29, doesn't it? Yeah, I mean, like you say, whilst yes, we are in this age of everyone and their dog having a direct drive and whatnot, it doesn't mean you can't be moderately competitive, and especially in cars like this where you kind of expect them to be so difficult to drive, so hard to manage. I see this line through T1, by the way. Oh, it's actually within the track limit, so that's well. I guess you're looking for times, aren't you? You're going into qualifying. You want those lap times. You can't just blow over the track limits. You want those lap times to be legal and within the track limits. But yeah, I mean, you can basically race on whatever you want. I mean, I used to race on a G27 for ages, so yeah, not very well though. That was the important caveat in there. Sorry.
Yeah, but obviously with the likes of Next Level Racing, you can obviously go on there, get yourself a proper rig, a proper, aluminum frame, and get yourself set up, and basically put yourself in the seat position as well of what a real life racing seat would be in a cockpit. So that is a great, though you obviously have that level of the spectrum as well to get that bit of extra realism involved, and also a bit of comfortability as well.
Yeah, too right. I mean, I've sat in a fair few Next Level Racing seats of varying descriptions. They are mighty comfortable, so much so that I would absolutely fall asleep in one if it wasn't, working the times I've been sat in one. So they are very, very good. I need a new seat, Cam. So I think that's the only reason I'm doing this gig.
Maybe that's your next investment as well. That was nice seeing the track limits as well, but maybe we're going to see some fair racing, Lewis.
This is the thing.
Just maybe.
I think the thing is though is, as we're saying, we're going into qualifying. Obviously, in about 5 minutes' time, you need to stay in the rhythm of being within track limits, right? Because the thing is, if you start exceeding left, right, and centre, particularly on the exit of T1 and T3, right, and even like down that through the penultimate corner at turn 8, if you're going over, or turn 9, whatever it is, if you're going over the track limits there, you're kind of getting yourself into the room, which is fine for the race when there is no track limits and always basically it's do whatever you want. You still get slowdowns and such, don't get me wrong, but you've got carte blanche to effectively attack the track however you feel worthy. In qualifying, if you get a 1x, if you exceed track limits, that lap does not count. And it's a 15-minute qualifying session, which in these, you're not getting that many laps realistically.
And especially if you want to get inside the top 5 and get those prizes, you of course want to be starting at the front. Although I think that reverse grid race is going to be very interesting because, first of all, full reverse grid is not always done. It's normally maybe the top 10, maybe the top half. And we have 50 cars, I think it is, or 45 cars on the field today. So there's a lot of cars to come back from for those top guys. So they need to be, trying to get through that in the nicest way possible, not getting in too many incidents, actually. So you're right. I think from the fairness side of it, there is actually going to have to be that level of racecraft if you want to get those prizes. Yeah, for sure. Do you think there is actually a favourite for the day? Because I would lean more towards Stephen Wilson, bearing in mind his experience and stuff in these sorts of cars. Because of that full reverse grid, I don't think there is a favourite for the day. You know what? I think the overall winner might be someone who's like P15-ish in qualifying. Still get a decent result in the first race, but then also not start from the very back in the second race. Yeah. Although you never know what's going to happen. But on average, with this kind of format, maybe that's going to suit those sorts of drivers. Especially, like I say, with that second race, it was a full reverse grid. It's not particularly long. I mean, I say like with Stephen Wilson, he does race in the NASCAR Coca-Cola Series. You've got people like Brandon Hawken who are very good, more so in like more so in TCRs and such. But still, they've all got their ways of like working through an order. And it's kind of one of those ones where in that reverse grid race, the first few you tick off are actually going to be the hardest people to overtake, right? Once you've got past the first, like, say 10 people, from that point on, the pace differential should mean that effectively the next few should be the easiest to work their way through. By the way, just whilst we're here building up into the qualifying session, we thought we'd throw something over to you to announce the Ford's biggest fan giveaway winners, which I think is a big congrats when you're a massive Ford fan. Absolutely, and it's awesome to see, of course, Fordzilla being the sim racing team using the Ford Mustang today, and we of course will go through the top 5 of the giveaway winners for that one, and then we'll be able to, of course, see who is going to be the biggest fan of them all. And to be honest, if you are a super fan, getting yourself in the top 5 in general is obviously a good result. Certainly so. Certainly so indeed. The 5th, 4th and 3rd, I believe, are the ones we're going to announce first, and we'll wait and then we'll announce the 2nd and 1st a bit later on once we're done with the event racing. But without further ado, we'll take a look.
Well, congratulations to the three of them. Again, 5th through 3rd of our Ford's biggest fan giveaways, all of those winning races. I've got to say, I mean, Ford have such a prevalent history, not only in motorsport, but in road cars as well. So thank you to them as well for sharing their varying stories, all attached to the Ford brand. I mean, let's be honest, we all know plenty of people in our lives that are really attached to the blue oval. I know my dad is one of them. He absolutely loves himself Fords.
Well, I mean, there's plenty of good cars to choose from. Of course, we saw a lot of Mustangs there, like we've seen on the grid today with the next-gen NASCARs. But, of course, there's loads of other ones. And especially when you're from the UK, like myself, and you're in the younger generation, you can't necessarily afford a Mustang. But the old Fiesta and Focus and the road car spec is, of course, very good indeed. But these new Mustangs look absolutely great, and let's see what the next-gen NASCAR variant of it can do in qualifying. 15 minutes to see who is going to be starting on pole position.
And this is not even me saying it because we're on a Fordzilla broadcast and whatnot. Genuinely, one of my favourite race cars of all time is actually a Ford. What if you know what it is, though?
The
if you can guess.
BTCC Focus.
No.
What?
Group 5 Capri, mate. Whoa!
Ah, yeah.
What a car.
Yeah, fair shout.
What a car. The Group 5 Capri, that is one where I'm like, we need that on iRacing Pronto. Although, to be fair, I would never be able to drive it. It's insanely difficult to drive those Group 5 cars. I've seen a couple in person. They are very, very pretty indeed. But yeah, like you say, qualifying is underway. And as we've alluded to a couple of times, it is an open qualifying, just to add to the chaos, because why not? And bearing in mind all the pace differential that we've seen, I'll just touch on it a little bit. In practice, Stephen Wilson did a 31.8, and the slowest time that we had was from Marcel Vandenberg, which was a 40.4. That is 8 seconds difference between the fastest time and the slowest time. No disrespect to any of those that are lower down, higher up, whatever. It's, you know, we're all equals here and we're all out here for a good time. That is a very large margin, though, when you're trying to put a lap together, dodging all of the chaos.
And especially when you're trying to find a bit of a gap to not be too distracted by some cars around you. Of course, if you leave yourself a 5-second gap, but they're 5 seconds a lap slower than you, you're going to be all over the back of them by the final couple of corners, and that is always a little bit tricky to navigate. But they have 15 minutes. Of course, by the time they get around to start their laps, of course, we've got 13 minutes. But they do have long enough to try and find a gap at least. And although maybe if there's a little bit of a shake-up off the grid, that's not necessarily going to be a bad thing for the action tonight.
Yeah, we're looking at Keenan Kusin at the moment. It's coming up towards the final corner. Richard Dibdale is the one that's directly ahead of him, who blinks out of existence and then comes back to it. And you can see, basically, no one's going to get clean air on this lap. And as much as Slipstream will help with a lap, just trying to find a way of doing a lap cleanly is going to be paramount in a session like this. We'll see how these laps kind of unfold and how close we'll get to those practice times. I'm not sure if we'll beat the practice times. I think if you set a lap time in this session, which is close to what you've set in practice, you're on basically for a good result here, purely based on the fact of I don't know how many people will be able to get close as we see someone running wide. I believe that is Colby Pierce.
Yeah, that's going to be very difficult to try and, as you say, find the lap. Seeing Kusin here coming down the back straight in towards turn 4. Very tricky braking zone, all the way downhill braking, so the car's sort of falling away from you. And then, of course, you've got to pick up the apex, otherwise the gravel is right there on the exit. And he does have that car a little bit ahead of him, obviously trying to distract him as such, as you see him there. Obviously streaming and enjoying himself, not blinking at all. Full concentration as he comes through the two left-handers in the mid part of this Red Bull ring.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I can kind of get the no blinking. If you can not blink for 90 seconds, now's the time to do it. Because, these cars, even on the straights, they don't really let you breathe. Now, yeah, don't get me wrong. I know that this newer generation, the next generation of NASCAR races, next-gen Mustang, they do have a lot more downforce than the previous generation. They do race a little bit, they're more road course orientated, so it does make things a little easier, but it does not mean that they are easy to take on. Kusin goes up to 8th. At the moment, it's Marlow who set our fastest time thus far, which was actually half a second faster than the time they set in practice. Thus, following on to that point that I was saying, if you can get close to your time or even go faster than it, you are on for a really good result here.
They certainly are. And even look a bit further down, there's actually not that bigger gaps between some people. Kusin there, 9th place on a 35-1. Look, it's just a 10th of a second per car behind him for a few cars. So there's definitely going to be some great battles up and down the field as Soraya goes towards the front there. Wilson smashes them out of the park by half a second.
Yeah, that's... I did have a little... I was like, well, still Wilson's not on a lap time yet. Bang, there he goes. See what Brandon Hawkin does across the line. At the moment, tracking to be a little slower than the pole time, but enough to get up to second, I believe, although not quite come through. There it is, up to second place. I did think that was a 32.2. Pev goes his way up to 4th position, so a couple of improvements there, including from one of our Fordzilla representatives. There is Jose Soria, who is obviously getting a little bit of slipstream on that back stretch from Carson Caitlin. Was actually the car, by the way, that was backwards out of T3 on that opening lap that we were seeing there. I'm not sure this is going to be an improvement from Jose Soria.
Maybe not. Yeah, just being held up a little bit there, actually in the braking zone. Then, of course, we've got this the next car ahead. Oh, being led through very awkwardly as well through the first real left-handed corner of the track before coming downhill to the next one. Oh, a bit of a crash in the background as well. A couple of the drivers just getting involved with each other, trying to find some space on this qualifying lap, just showing you how difficult it is as Soraya pulls off the side.
Do you know who it was that bent it off on the right-hand side? Steve Wilson.
Oh. I was just calming down for the next lap to try.
Exactly. 9 minutes left of the session. Don't worry about it. Yeah, it was in a little bit of contact with Carson Caitlin. I've got to say though, if Steve Wilson doesn't go out again in this session, I don't see anyone beating that lap time. If I'm going to be brutally honest, I don't see anyone beating the 31.7. No one else got into the 31s in the previous session, as Reynolds improved his way up into 3rd place with a 32.284. I'm just not sure anyone else can get in. If someone else gets into the 31s, then obviously, you know, power to them. But I'm just not sure that anyone's quite got that speed. It comes down to experience a lot of the time. And let's be honest, the most experienced driver on this grid in this car is absolutely Stephen Wilson.
Yeah, and even though I think Hawkin there just improved a bit on another lap, still, 4.5 tenths off that pole position. So I do agree. I think if you can get yourself into the 31s, you probably have a good chance of getting on the front row there with Wilson. But it's definitely very close behind, which is really nice to see. As we've seen Smith here coming up in towards turn 3. Very tricky corner because it's actually not the tightest corner in the world, but the elevation change just makes it so tricky. The front and the rear doing all sorts of things before you plunge downhill. Once again, is getting a bit of a sighter from that car ahead though, as we're coming to Sancinelli with the VR. That's a nice little rig he's got there.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think this is for our viewing pleasure as well, is that we've got the largest heads-up display that I've ever seen. It's taken up an entire monitor. But obviously, he's not using it, so, you know, power to him.
That's a good point. Because he can't just look to his left because he'll be looking at the side of his cockpit. So that's a very nice one for the streamers. And I love the full immersion with the seat belts as well. The proper gloves, steering wheel. Yeah, really nice setup. I rate it when you sort of get that serious into it.
Yeah. No, there is I mean, we've driven in a couple of slightly more serious rigs. Nothing too crazy. Definitely don't have a home setup quite like that. But I've had a go in a couple where you do need to be strapped in. I remember those ones we had in Bolton, where you had to be strapped in and stuff, and the way that all went. Like I say, if you're going for it, fill your boots. I mean, I'm loving that so far.
Yeah, let's see sort of what time he can do. Currently 5 seconds off is Sancinelli in the 57 machine. 31st. Well, maybe he's getting an improvement on this next lap. So it looks to be a pretty clean lap, but sometimes that means it actually might be faster. Quite fast. Yeah.
It's definitely faster as he crosses the line. So we'll break the beam and do a 34. I'll put him right in the mid-pack up to 21st position. That was an improvement of around 2 seconds. So definitely not to be sniffed up at. That was quite a wild moment coming out onto the start-finish straight. Not 100% sure as to who that was. I think it might have been Noiguez, who was having a big old slide probably coming out of the pit lane. Although, to be fair, you can do that just out of T1 as well. When it starts to snap and then you catch it and then you put your foot down and then it snaps again and then and then it snaps again and it snaps again. These things do have an awful lot of power. I can't remember exactly how much it is, as there is another VR driver in Bauer. I don't blame them in this kind of race. If there is ever a time to whip out the VR headset, it's now.
It certainly is, and I've used VR a few times, and it is very good. It's just I need a bit of a better graphics card if I want to be using it myself. That's for sure, at least in the competitive environment. So fair play to those guys. And also, I actually like when we get the webcams of this, because you see sort of the setups people have. Look at the nice little cabinet in the background is there with the model cars separated by the colours as well. You know, these drivers definitely take this racing serious, and it's good to see that.
Yeah, I did a broadcast in a race the other day, which was a very serious, everyone was taking it very, very seriously. Far too seriously, to be honest. Everyone was taking it very, very seriously. And I think only 2 drivers, might have even been 3, did webcams for the broadcast, which I'm always like, oh, come on, if you're going to race in it and it's a broadcast list, absolutely do the webcam. Like you say, we all love spying mostly, but also it gives you extra screen time as that looks like my line through turn 1, going for a bit too heavy on the throttle, and bam, spins round in the pathway of someone else. That is going to happen quite a lot, not only in this qualifying session, but almost guaranteed on lap 1 as well.
I like how he looked to the right, like physically looked to the right as well. That's that's a pretty cool sensation, and of course, I'm sure that will, maybe
sure
get
scary.
A bit more. Yeah, definitely. But sure, maybe get a bit more popular as we're seeing Hawking here coming up to the final couple of corners, 4/10 off. As Hafler getting up into 8th place, as I think it was Mitchelson as well, getting up into 12th just a couple of seconds ago. Hawking with just a couple of corners to go, but that is not the way to do it, and he's coming into the pit lane.
Yep, diving in. Probably not something they're going to have to do too much during the races. I will say a few drivers that haven't set lap times. One is Abel Torres, and one of them is going to be an improvement this time by. He comes up towards the line. The answer to that question is no. Bearing in mind, Abel Torres did have some really good pace in the practice session. I believe only has a couple of laps left to see if there's going to be any improvement, because that's a driver that I would expect to see based on that practice time inside the top 10 in a session like this. On board with Peo Pev coming down towards the penultimate corner. Let's listen to him through this section. Really smooth power output. Little wide through the final. Does manage to hook it in a little bit. Just lost a little bit there. Didn't quite get it turned in nicely through the final corner out towards the line. 32.645. So it's not an improvement, but it is in that kind of vein of just remaining consistent.
Absolutely. Nogues goes up into 11th place. Now we see Smith here within a second coming into the final couple of corners. Can he do any sort of improvements as it stands? Does need pretty much 3/10 to get to the next car. Actually, that's quite a big jump for some qualifying sessions. Let's see if he can jump up coming out of the final corner. Not always the easiest one to predict where these drivers are going to go. Does he jump up? Yes, he does in terms of time, but not in terms of position.
Yeah, remaining in that 7th spot. Love the yellow wheels, by the way. Just really, really stands out. Steve Wilson, by the way, has not gone back out in this session, so he's very confident in that 31.7, which, by the way, is faster than the practice time that was set. A few drivers have improved on their practice times. A few drivers have not quite breached that. I do think we're going to get a couple of improvements towards the end part of the session, including one from there is Abel Torres, completing the first of, I think, 2 final laps. There might be one more coming in for the number 32, moving up inside the top 10 as expected.
Yeah, a couple of other improvements there. Calver in 14th place, also in the number 14 car, jumping up as some further lap times come in towards the end of the session. You say inside 2 minutes to go now, so pretty much the drivers will be coming to start their final laps. As we get a car off there on the inside of the kink of I think turn 8, that is. As we're seeing here, Vigilone coming up into the final couple of corners. Such a difficult sequence of corners this, actually, because it's so fast, but it's so easy to run wide. And as you say, getting off track, cancel your lap. Before you come down this final corner, really dips down there, use all of the curb and get the run to the line.
You know, I'm actually surprised that final sector was legal there, because it did run quite wide going through that final corner. Didn't improve on the lap time anyway, but it shows how much you can get away. 1 minute and 15 seconds left to go in the qualifying session before we move into the first of 2 races. A very quick touch on the format for tonight, just so you know exactly what you're expecting to see. Abel Torres coming down to the final sector, ready to start a final lap time. Because unlike normal qualifying, by the way, and iRacing, they will be able to finish their final laps because it is an open session. When it comes to this, once we're done with qualifying, we'll be heading into a 10-lap feature race. 10 laps is not very long, but a 10-lap race before we'll have a little break between that, and then we'll do a second race, which will be 8 laps long. But Cam, as we've said before, it's going to be a complete reverse grid. Just the most amount of chaos.
Yeah, it's I'm definitely a little bit kind of scared actually of turn 1, as I believe it's actually 46, was it 45 cars? Yeah, 45 cars we've got barreling down in towards turn 1, which is going to be very, very tricky indeed, as Torres, of course, on his final lap. 10 seconds to go, so you need to be starting your lap now if you want to get one more in.
Jose Soria, by the way, look at that. He's moved up to second place on the final lap, or the penultimate lap he's just complete, because he's actually on one now as the session comes to a close. They're not able to finish it off. I thought they would in an open session, but clearly not. So that's fine. So Steve Wilson will start this one then from pole position. Jose Soria alongside in the front row. But I think Stephen Wilson's chances of winning all come down to whether he can get through turn 1 and turn 3 cleanly. We'll take a very quick look at the grid then. Wilson, Sawyer on the front row, Hawkin, Reynolds, Pev, and then Marlowe, who did that lap time quite early in the session. Abel Torres improving quite late to move to 7th, and then Aaron Smith in 8th place, Haflidarson in 9th, and then Decker will round out the top 10. Vigiglione, who we checked in a few times in that session. Noiguez, who had a couple of issues late on, but still managed to improve to get inside the top 12. Gunnarsson, Calvar, Viton, Luke Mitchison inside the top 16 there, and then Bowham, and then we've got Jeff Newton in 18th position. Final couple of cars inside the top 20, Tyler Blackburn and then Dean Dibdow. We'll let the rest of these fall their way through, because as Cam has said, there is an awful lot of drivers on this grid, including a few starting towards the back who didn't set lap times through that session, and they'll be desperate to work their way forward in what I can't even imagine the first couple of laps are going to be like, Cam.
Nor can I, but definitely look out for some of these names down the bottom.
Especially that guy.
Oh yeah, you're on the grid. When we get to the end of the race, obviously we don't get the full reverse grid, so the guys towards the back of this grid, don't count them out yet for a race victory in race 2, as the drivers just get on the grid for the short formation lap.
I'm not sure if with the invert, or with that final lap, if that actually includes drivers who retire from the race. So again, we've said this before, there is no damage on in this race as well, so there is no real need to retire, and also it's 10 laps long. I mean, attention spans and all that. It's about 15 minutes long. I'm sure we'll see pretty much everyone getting to the end, unless there's some technical problem. I think this is going to be a wild ride. Again, it's what the event is all about.
Yeah, it's actually pretty scary. Look at all these cars lined up, and of course they'll be that close when the green flag hits. They've just got a couple of corners to negotiate on the formation lap, as ironically the Mustang pace car takes away the next gen Mustang NASCARs as well. Not long for them to set themselves up, getting the mindset for what is coming into turn 1. As we said, damage is off, the track limits are pretty much off, the gloves are off in this race, and we can't wait to see what happens.
Yeah, certainly so. So one of our many Mustangs will pull into the pit lane here, and we'll get ourselves underway for the first race here in the Next Level Racing Team Fordzilla Mustang Madness Invitational, the community event here. Oh, we are in for a wild ride. Stephen Wilson will start this one from pole position, and then Jose Soria, who'll be starting from the left-hand side, from the outside in that race up towards turn 1. And of course, Stephen Wilson has pounced early on that race up towards the first corner. How much chaos are we going to see going up towards that first corner? Are we going to see anyone going basically straight on to avoid the chaos at the moment for the front few? It certainly isn't so. Jose Soria is out a little bit wide. Brandon Hawkin might be able to pounce up towards turn 3. They're clean through the top 10, and not behind that as the 71 of Jeff Newton goes for a spin with quite a few in the mid-pack.
Oh yeah, loads of cars getting contact there. We've got some reversing up this front straight between turns 1 and 2, as quite a few of the cars actually seem to be getting through nicely towards the front of the field. We did see some 3 wide moments between a couple of the Fordzilla cars as well, maybe Pev and Haflidarson going side by side as we come down the hill.
Yeah, there's a spinner in the background. Who is that? It is the 40. I think it's the 46 of Decker as we're heading down now into Schlossgold. I did see that Pay Pev was looking at Blake Reynolds. There was some contact between Reynolds and Hawken, of which there is going to be. This is proper like touring car rubbing his racing style combat, as there's even more drivers being fired off down towards Schlossgold. That's going to happen quite a lot. Can't get words out. Christy there coming through turn 4. Unfortunately, on the wrong side of the track. Needs to obviously be on the tarmac. Does get back into the queue though, and will try and find his way up a few more positions. But just remember, obviously, who is going off there? Is that Marlowe having a few issues potentially? I believe we are on board with, and he has gone so far off the track that the cameras can't even find it. That is a wild place to be, as there's various bits of contact behind all of that. Steve Wilson's checked out just a touch from the front of the field, pulls it out to just over a second on that race up towards the first corner to complete the first of 10 laps in this first race. But the battling towards that back end for the podium is going to be on fire, I'm sure. This is Tyler Blackburn at the moment. Getje Neuges, who's lost out just a little bit to Jonas Gunnarsson over the previous lap. I did see also Abel Torres hasn't been able to hang on inside that top 10 towards the end of the first lap, but let's see how things unfold as Dean Dibdall is dropping back a couple of positions here up towards T3. I'm assuming that's a slowdown at T1. Yeah, might just well be. As a 57 there's been spun around. Can he just collect it? Yes, he can, although the 45 machine has to go all the way around, and the 54 gets involved there. That looked like a pretty good save, though, from the 57, to be honest, from Sancinelli, we're seeing on board with in qualifying, because he didn't seem to be in the barrows or have too much in the way of carnage. Yeah, the VR probably would have helped quite a bit. At least you get to look around a little bit and see exactly what's going on. Oh my goodness me, that is a send from Blake Reynolds to try and get to the inside of Brandon Hawken, going through that second of those two left-handers through the mid-pack. But look at the drive that he's got going around the outside up towards the penultimate corner now, and straight around the outside Blake Reynolds is going to go. He just chops in over the nose of Brandon Hawken. That is fantastic driving and fantastic spatial awareness. He must have a spotter if he's judging it that close, because there could not have been much between the rear of Blake Reynolds' car and the front of Brandon Hawkins. Yeah, perfect overtake. Really. Just used every single inch of the track that he had, made it work, and that's so difficult to do. As you mentioned, the cars obviously have been more downforce than previously, but they are still not the most sophisticated cars in the world when you compare them to obviously like GT3 machinery, etc., that you'd expect around a track like this. So to hold it around the outside there is a very impressive move indeed, as we see in the top sort of 5-6 really starting to get in this train at the front. It's almost 4 wide coming into turn 3. Yeah, Abel Torres is the one that's looking down the inside and is battling with Mark Calver towards the back end of the top 10. Calver comes over the nose of Abel Torres, who tries to keep his foot in just a touch there, and that should allow Jonas Gunnarsson to potentially get involved in all of this as well. Aaron Smith up ahead, battling out quite hard with, I think, Vigilone as well, as they're racing their way in. There's Abel Torres to the inside of Calver, and should be able to make that one stick on the exit of Schlossgold. But to be fair, with these kind of cars, sometimes that outside line, it does actually help you. You're able to use a lot more of that throttle pedal. I'm not so sure on this occasion. Jonas Gunnarsson does make his way past the pair of them in only a matter of corners. Yeah, that's almost too easy for Gunnarsson. 2 places very quickly, although actually Torres is trying to come back here through the King of Turn 8 up the hill. We saw this just a lap ago as well, towards the front with Reynolds, but can Torres just pull over to the side? Yes, he can, to keep that position as Calver's watching on, trying to get the switch on to the inside of the final corner. That's a lovely move down the inside, trying to follow the 32 through. And Gunnarsson goes back those 2 places he gained earlier. That's all over the grass. Yeah, to be fair, he was getting rubbed over the rear end there, I think, from Gunnarsson, and Calver's going to lose out a few positions. You can see a bit of a huff. And to be fair, can kind of understand that one, losing out to Gunnarsson to Neuges to Blackburn, as well as there is a spinner. Who is that? I think it might be Aaron Smith. Certainly wasn't Abel Torres. It certainly is Aaron Smith, who's dropping right the way down the order, somewhere towards the full reverse grid pole, by the way. Just throwing that one out there. Tactics, I tell you what. Exactly. Trying to get towards the front, as you say. When we get to the full reverse grid on the next race, sliding on the exit massively between a lot of these drivers. We've got Blackburn and Gunnarsson ahead in the 3 black and white Ford Mustangs as come down the hill now, trying to find a bit of space themselves on the track. But this car's actually turning out to be pretty raceable. They're changing positions pretty easily, and quite a rapid race. Vigilone goes around in turn 4. Yeah, I wonder if there might have been some assistance in there. I mean, we did see them all making contact going up towards T3. Very easy to do. There is Invitational just looking a bit frustrated, as you kind of expect. I mean, it's very easy to lock the rears coming down into Schlossgold, into that fourth corner, and then if anyone's even near the rear end of your car, it is the lightest tap and you will go round. We look up towards the battle for 8th position, Noiguez and Abel Torres looking to the inside, and Jonas Gunnarsson, who's already picked up a couple of drivers in a single lap, looking at another 2 ahead of him.
And Torres did get ahead there momentarily, so I think they were side by side through the double left-handers in the mid part of the track. Just showing you how the racing is in this car. Torres gets the run towards turn 1, just I think lifts out of it, but he's trying to now, of course, get that slingshot effect out of turn 1, get a clean exit before you run up the hill through 2 into 3, and of course get the slipstream that comes with that up towards the heavy braking zone of turn 3. One of the best overtaking opportunities of the track goes to the inside. Does Torres side by side in the braking zones? We're seeing a little bit further back as well. 2 battles in the same corner, and the 32 goes through. Yeah,
that was a tidy one. Like I say, we're going to see. I mean, to be fair, look up and down this order. I'm sure you'll just see battles pretty much all over the place. But yeah, Abel Torres making his way. He's able to make his way through. Okay, cool. I'll see myself out before locking up. Just a touch coming down to Schlossgold and open the door once again. Almost being spun round.
07. Using that space he had on the inside to try and get the gap, but not quite enough that time. And through the 2 left-handers, that bit of lap traffic maybe up ahead of him. Yeah, because the gap ahead of Torres is massive, actually. It's worked his way out to about 6 seconds or so to have Ladarson up the road. As we see, we've got a bit of lap traffic. These guys, they do get up nicely off the inside the 48 machine, up towards the final couple of corners as this battle continues.
Yeah, it's Colm Hartin that's just gone the lap down. Unfortunately, I will say, going a lap down at the best of times is not the easiest trick in the book. In this, it is pretty terrifying because you've got a lot of pretty hungry next-gen Mustangs all over the ring, and there are so many of them, and it is quite a long train. You kind of pull out of the way to get out of one driver's way, and then suddenly there's another one and another one and another one and another one and another one, and it is just constant, at least for the next 5 laps or so. Halfway through the first race, Steele Rawson leads by just under 2 seconds. Brandon Hawkins keeping him fairly close for company, although I've got to say Stephen Wilson I think might be looking after his tyres just a touch, and if there is a car that you've got to look after your tyres in even a 10-lap race, this is it. Particularly the rear tyres, they will go off very, very quickly.
Yeah, not the most traction in the world in these cars, as we've seen, especially out of turn 3. So many cars just fishtailing on the exit, trying to get the traction down. All bit of lock up there on the inside for the 07. Still makes the corner though, actually quite nicely. But yeah, it's really the traction on the exit where you want to get the power down. But of course, with the amount of power that they got, you can't quite use that with the tyres, unfortunately. So therefore, you have to have a bit of feathering on that right foot, and some drivers, of course, a little bit better than others with that. But this is a great battle for the lower parts of the top 10. 4 cars still massively close together, but it does seem actually towards the front, the Torres is just pulling away from this battle.
Yeah, he just finding a little bit extra time-wise. I mean, Abel Torres did qualify inside the top 10 in 7th place, dropped back outside of the top 10 to around about 12th, and then has worked his way bit by bit up towards the 8th position. So it kind of makes sense that he might have a bit more pace in the tank, and with plenty of space up ahead to work into, should be good to potentially pull away from that grouping behind as we look further up the field towards Blake Reynolds, who might have just started to overdo those tyres, because Jose Soria, that looked a little bit more patient early on, is coming back into the mix with the number 66 for that final spot on the podium. Jose Soria is desperate to find a way past Blake Reynolds, particularly before Pev gets to him.
And it seemed to have much more grip on the inside of turn 3. Let's see that again coming into turn 4. Kind of 36, yeah, maybe just keep a slightly tighter line. So maybe you're right in the tyre factors, as we got a car off there on the outside. I don't believe that's anyone in the top battles, but certainly another car in the gravel. They have to try and find out. Let's see through the 2 left-handed corners in this middle part of the track. Does Soria maybe just have a slight advantage at this point in the race?
Yeah, I think it's less so that Jose Soria's got an advantage of like the grouping, because I think that Soria, Pev, and even Marlow, they're all kind of in the same sort of vein with how they've looked after the tyres. I think it's Blake Reynolds that might have overdone them earlier on. Do you remember Reynolds going pretty aggressive early on in the race? Did start as one from fourth, got up to third, maybe to second, I think, for a brief while. Currently runs in that third place. I do get the feeling there might be a couple of pace problems coming the way of the number 66 over the final 3 laps in this race. There's not too long left to go, and I will say this, in these kinds of cars, this is a circuit where you can do the defending, as that will certainly help his matters, because Jose Soria has made an absolute meal of the first corner. Now Peo Pev's coming into the mix.
Yeah, the last half lap wasn't good for Soria. He's going to lose a lap position now. Pev on the racing line as well, coming to turn 3. Although Soria actually tries to hold it up the inside there. Got to be looking out because Marlowe's now going to be coming up the inside in the number 2 machine. Side by side on the exit with Pev. He's going to be getting the slipstream, of course. So actually 36 moves over to give the slipstream to Marlowe down this back straightaway. So Pev's in a bit of a difficult situation now on the outside. Got a cut on his inside. And they continue actually to battle through turn 4 now as the number 2 gets that position.
Yeah, it's really nicely done by Marlowe to have kind of just used Jose Soria's mistake to take full advantage of the rear end of Peo Pev and work his way through inside the top 5. So that was a super move from Marlowe. Peo Pev, the Bulgarian that we've had our fair share of commentary on. He's a pretty pacey racer. Can get a little aggressive in occasions like this, which, to be fair, right now is driving the car well under his right foot at the moment, like comfortably, not doing anything too crazy. Whether that will change on the penultimate lap and potentially even the final lap of the race, we'll have to wait and see. Everyone running out a little bit wide going through that penultimate corner and into the final, as we'll see if Jose Soria is going to be able to keep Alfredo Marlowe at bay.
It's crazy how Reynolds just got away from this battle as well. These Soria really slowing down the last couple of laps, and of course the batting does not help that, which shows you sometimes just having a clean race is actually, of course, the fastest way to do that. So come a little bit further back. This is the battle with Sean Cole and Vigileone are there, I think, just swapping around some places as Cole trying to get there on the back for P16 as we get a little bit further obviously in towards the race now. They're trying to get these last few positions with a couple of laps to go, and when you see a car in front of you, you want to go for every inch of the track that you can.
Yeah, certainly so. Racing up towards that third corner once again. Like I said, battles will be up and down the order, whether it is in this grouping like what we're seeing here, the battle for fourth place between Jose Soria, Alfredo Marlowe and then Peo Pev. There is still battles between Noiguez and Gunnarsson, and also Mark Calver down towards the back end of the top 10. Tyler Blackburn not a million miles away off the rear end of that, as seeing in all of that, Noiguez has had a bit of an issue on that lap because he's lost about a couple of seconds and all that. He's going to lose out a few more spots.
Yeah, there's 3 places he's lost now. And looking where he's turn 7, maybe he went off through the gravel of turn 4, something like that. Yeah. Actually gets the switch back up the inside now of turn 7. Oh, bit of contact between the two. Massive slide. Can he save it? No, the 7 machine is going to go around, make some contact with the barrier. Noiguez is going to lose a few more places. That's about 5-6 places now he's lost. And as we come up the hill, getting back up to speed, there goes 2 more.
Yeah, damage might well be off, but trust me, you'll still absolutely ruin your tyres from doing so. They'll be really, really hot, and it's actually going to be really difficult to drive this final lap. The white flag is out. Stephen Wilson has already spotted that one on the start-finish straight coming up towards turn 3. He's been pretty dominant. Is being closed down a little bit in the final stages by Brandon Hawken, who's got a little bit of lapped traffic as well to deal with before he can set his sights to Stephen Wilson, but I don't suspect much is going to happen in that book. I think Wilson's just been driving A-OK.
Yeah, had control, had the pace in the qualifying. That has turned to the first heat here as well. But remember, we're getting the full reverse grid, so Wilson will be going to the very back along with the drivers around him, and now have a big challenge in themselves as we're getting Reynolds going around a bit further back.
Oh, what has happened to Blake Reynolds here? He's been off the road. I think that's into turn... Oh, I was going to say turn 5. Where is it? No, it must be Schlossgaard. It must be T4.
Yeah, I think the
wild.
turn 4.
Yeah, wild. And he's obviously going to run down the escape road and decides, actually, no, I will just go through the gravel trap. That is wild, wild stuff indeed. Well, I will tell you, coming down towards he's going to drop. It's tactical. He's dropping back to the rear of the field, so he's got an easier task in that second race. Because, again, the grid will be reversed. That means, courtesy of this victory for Stephen Wilson, he'll be dropping to the rear of the field for the second race. Wilson crosses the line and wins the first race here in the Next Level Racing Team Fordzilla Mustang Madness community event. It is Wilson on top, Brandon Hawkin behind, and Jose Soria rounding out the first of 2 podiums this evening. Will they be able to fight their way through back onto the podium? Abel Torres manages to get past After Dawson down towards the line, although switched back around. There is this tight fight across the line between Gunnison and Mark Calver. And Gunnison's worked his way up, done actually a really good job to work his way up to 8th spot through his race. He started it from 13th.
As I did, they're having a big battle towards the end with Norris, and Noiguez in the back, of course, had that massive issue. And here is Reynolds that we just saw exploring the track and going through the gravel. He will, of course, start a little bit further down the grid in the middle of the pack as well. So he's certainly shaking it up, and that was a great start to the evening. And let's see what the full reverse grid does, because when you put the slower drivers at the front, the faster drivers at the back, that just screams overtakes.
Well, turn 1 was pretty clean, relatively speaking, by the way. I know obviously there was quite a few incidents in there, particularly in the mid-pack, but towards the front, it was actually a very, very clean run through that first corner. I don't get the feeling that we're going to see the same thing in race 2. A few more drivers to cross the line, then we'll get you the results, show you exactly where things stand, but we do know that Stephen Wilson is the man to beat so far this evening. I don't think anyone's particularly shocked by that.
Absolutely not. Yeah, definitely had the car performance in that qualifying translated to the race as well. And here are actually a couple of the drivers that we saw involved in that melee through turn 1, but here are your results.
Yep, certainly so. So the top 10 see Stephen Wilson taking victory, Brandon Hawkin in second, third place for Jose Soria rounding out the first podium of the evening. Alfredo Marlo and Peo Pev managed to battle their way through for 4th and 5th. Hafler Darson, Torres, Gunnison, Calvar and Blackburn rounding out the top 10. As we scroll through the rest of those positions, we can see exactly where things lie. Jose Iglesias in 11th position, then Norris, Dibdow, Noiguez, Cole moving up to 15th position. Decent effort from him. Viglione having issues on the first couple of laps. Then Mitchison, Graham, Lewis, Thomas rounding out the top 20. We'll let the rest of these fly their way through. Reminders that this whole grid is about to be reversed. What is, I'm sure, going to be a thrilling second race. Some of these drivers down here, like Blake Reynolds in that 22nd position, have dropped down the order. They're going to be in decent stead for the next race. Carson Caitlin, a couple of these laps that drivers that finished just about on the lead lap. We'll show you the final couple and we'll get ourselves ready for what is going to be an absolutely thrilling full reverse grid. Don't go anywhere.
I ain't tryna bring you down, but for real, you might as well give up now. Think you got a chance, but I don't see how. Got a real tight grip when I hold that crown. My life been good and bad and all around. The more things I lost, the more I found. Everybody wanna be like us, we don't stop, cause the top just ain't enough. I'm the first one in and the last one out. Whoever owns the place gotta drag me out. Came here ready to fight on this night, you better just run for your life. Your life. Run for your life. Request permission to engage with the task conducting staff. Over.
Well, hello everyone and welcome back. My name is Lewis McGlade, but I am not starting this race from pole position. I've just joined it like an idiot. We'll take a look though at the grid working its way through. Zach Christie will actually be starting from the front row. Cole Martin, Vunneberg, then Briggs, then Kuba. Obviously Christie actually didn't do the previous race after a disconnection in the earlier stages. We'll take a look at the rest of the grid. Harold will start from 7th. Kobe Pierce from 8th position. Then Weatherby, Carson Caitlin, the last driver to finish on the lead lap, will start just inside the top 10. Then Viton and Cuthbert in 11th and 12th. We'll let the rest of them follow through whilst we talk about a couple of them. Sean Cole from 15th, having a decent job to work his way up in the order. Max Baum had a couple of issues through that race as well. We saw Jeff Newton as well backwards, I think at turn 3. Sanchonnet certainly was backwards a couple of times in that race, coming up towards that third corner. What can he do from a 19th position on the grid? And just a reminder, this is a full reverse grid. Every single one of our drivers has been reversed. Late drama for Blake Reynolds in that race puts him into the mid-pack with a 26th place start, and bearing in mind he was one of the drivers that was fighting for the podium in the previous race. Can he work his way up from there? We saw a great battle between Noiguez, between Dibdale, between Vigileone as well. Are they going to continue on that fight? Are they going to do it whilst they're working through the field? Here's a look then towards those that finished higher up in that previous race. Haftardarson, Peo, Pev, Abel Torres did a great job to work his way back inside the top 10. Alfredo Marlowe, Jose Soria, Brandon Hawkin, and of course our race winner in Stephen Wilson. Again, my name is Lewis McGlade. Cameron Roger alongside me in the booth for the Next Level Racing Team Fordzilla Mustang Madness. That was pretty crazy for a first race, and somehow we're going to step this one more up.
And look at this view from Wilson's car. Look at all those next-gen Ford Mustangs ahead of him. They are the ones he needs to overtake. It's not going to be easy for sure for them, obviously, to get back to the race victory. But can they get themselves into the top 10, top 20, something like that? Let's find out. Of course, only 8 laps as well, so 2 laps shorter than the previous race. It's certainly going to be a load of fun to have this full reverse grid, have the slowest drivers at the front, the fastest drivers at the back, and see what sort of overtakes we can witness.
How much drama do you think we're going to see at the first corner? That's the big question here, because I mean, if I'm somewhere inside that top 5, my only focus is let's get through cleanly. Not about holding on to the race lead or moving up 5 positions. It's just get through cleanly. If you're wanting to have a decent result, it is effectively a game of survival, almost akin to sort of like Warzone, you know?
The only issue I have is I'm not iRatingist, but the top 5, top 6 average is about 1,000 I rating. So we have to have a little bit of caution coming into this as we come through the final couple of corners before the pace car moves away. But certainly this should be a lot of fun.
What's your I rating, Cam, very quickly?
Oh, like 1.2.
Oh, no. Oh dear, that's pretty bad. Mine's about 3, so it's not great either. We do have Hugo Luis on the cameras though. I think her I rating is vastly more superior to where we are. The second race then is underway, and Cole Martin will actually take the lead up towards that first corner, almost risking a jump start on the race up towards T1. Could go straight on here. There's plenty of side-by-side in the mid-pack as well as they race their way through. The top 10 or so though have got through cleanly. Everyone else though, not so much. My goodness me, that was the 0-3 with a monster 10. That would be Keenan Kusin that has instigated an enormous crash.
Wow, that is a Skittles moment as we're getting 3 cars off. Almost 48 goes around. That is a very tricky situation with 45 cars coming out to turn 3 as it all changed up towards the front. You see the tower going absolutely crazy. Positions changing left, right and centre, and fair play for the 48 there, sitting and waiting for everyone to go past. 100%
did the right thing there. Just held on the brakes, stayed where he was, remained predictable. Whoa, using some MCU level warp magic to get to the inside there. I think that might have been Vartin that was getting down the inside. Another driver off on the left. I've commentated on Race Spot quite a lot. I've never seen a Race Spot tower do this much moving on the first lap. It's madness.
Oh, we got another car around on the inside of turn 6. Another one off to the left. Reynolds has moved up quite a lot. I saw him in the middle of the pack there as getting car doing some ski jumps over the grass as well. Let's see obviously how this one continues. Another one off on the outside of turn 7 up towards turn 8. Another one drifting it.
My goodness.
The number 57, I think that was. That amazing action.
This is absolute madness as we're seeing them all come through here. By the way, I just want to point out a couple of drivers in all this, whilst we've got plenty of side-by-side coming into the penultimate corner. I mean, this is wild racing. That's the 07 sending one once again down the inside of that final corner. Look at where did he go? I did see Blake Reynolds, 5th place. 5th place Blake Reynolds is already. He's worked up 20 positions in that lap. As Edgar Santinelli sent it in the first corner. Oh no, he sent him for a bit of a spin, trying to sell the dummy. Costly mistake there from Santinelli.
Oh, yeah, that was way too late, unfortunately, coming to turn 1. We also have Stephen Wilson up into 14th place, Marlowe into 16th, Aaron Smith as well up into 6th place. So definitely some battles to be had. Viton, though, coming for the race lead as, Christie goes way too deep into turn 4.
Yeah, that is way too deep. Try carrying a little bit too much in. You're right, Garrett Viton has taken over the race lead at the moment and now leads by 2.1 seconds. Chikuba comes through to take over 2nd position, and Zach Christie could potentially be dropping back behind Vartan as well, who was in the midst of quite a few bits of drama over the opening couple of laps. So the big send down the inside coming down to Slosgold, and there is Blake Reynolds. Again, he started this race in 26th, was running in the podium position for quite a lot of the previous race before dropping back down the order over the final few laps. He's picked off one, looking for a second coming down into that penultimate corner. It's going to be a proper send though, and I'm not sure it was the wisest call.
It's going to be a world record for the most overtakes done in 2 laps. Absolutely amazing scenes there for Reynolds to get himself up onto the podium. Smith following his way through as well, coming up towards almost a 3-wide situation across the line as Horfordon and Christie there as well get involved. Christie unfortunately dropping down after leading the race for the first lap and a half on the outside there of turn number 1. Eventually he's going to have to lose that position, I would assume. But also just in the background there, we saw Wilson. So
yeah, I was about to say. Yeah, I was about to say, you want to say about Blake Reynolds setting the record for potentially the most moves in 2 laps, and then you see Stephen Wilson, who has come from 46th to 11th in 2 laps. I mean, yes, I'm sure picking up the pieces through all your chaos. If he can win both races here, I've got no words. I've got absolutely no words as Adam Briggs in a little bit of a fight there with Peyo Pev, who's just sneaking it around the outside, along with Brandon Hawken, who again is one of those drivers who was higher up in the previous race. Brandon Hawken, of course, finishing on the podium in the previous race with a 2nd place finish.
There goes Soraya down the inside, making a nice clean move. Actually, is that the 88 machine just moving out of the way? 28 goes through as well, as there's a car off in the gravel. That slows down the 88, unfortunately, as a couple of drivers get through. So Soraya actually inadvertently almost lost the 88. About 3 or 4 positions there.
Yeah, it was Matt Malios that was the one that was out a little wide, going through Slosgold. Oh my goodness me, this is high up as well. This is the battle that's just seen Chikuba and the likes of Vartan and Zach Christie all dropping down, along with a couple of others. Hafner Darson also in there. That was Brandon Hawken and Peyo Pev going each and every way around the incident. Wow. Oh, see here as well. That will be Jose Soria that's gone for the spin and caused even more of a crash. 4 corners for this crash.
Multiple cars sliding. That is the issue when you have so many cars on track. If someone at the front crashes, everyone is just steaming in from behind. And to be fair, it is a difficult situation. Wilson now up into P6, gifted a few more places. Reynolds up into P2. We're seeing these top drivers already getting themselves back up to the front. And they still have a few laps to try and actually get up towards the proper podium in the case of Wilson. Side by side on the apex.
Yeah, but if anyone's going to catch it after a little bit of side-by-side bashing, it will be Stephen Wilson. That's Tyler Blackburn that's got back to the inside of him, coming down towards T3. They race their way down towards Slosgold. And you also, I think, have someone else behind. That'll be Alfredo Marlowe, who's done actually a really good job, again, to have flown up the order, to have dragged his way through with Stephen Wilson, who's going to get a little bit wrong-footed by Christopher Norris that was off-wide. So that's another position gained for this grouping. So Norris dropping back down. Steve Wilson trying to make his way past Tyler Blackburn once again. I mean, if I'm Blackburn, I'm sat there thinking, I've just made a move in a NASCAR on an e-NASCAR driver. I don't care that I've nearly just spun off there. I at least got ahead of him for a little bit.
getting turned around there. Definitely a bit of squeezing going on between the two. Through turn 7, the 38 gets past as well. That's Norris getting back up a position, as this is now the battle for P5. There we've got Wilson, we've got Marlowe involved there as well. Yeah, definitely turning out to be a great battle here in the second race. Already on to lap 5 for the leader Viton, who's having a bit of a comfortable lead. And even Aaron Smith now can't quite keep up in that third place. So the top lot's starting to spread out, but it's very close behind.
Yeah, Viton's pace is actually pretty decent. He's being caught quite a bit by Blake Reynolds. I suggest that gap will come down by the end of the race, as Steve Wilson's had a decent run off of T1 and will pick. And now they're making contact up towards that third corner, and that I think might be Newton dropping back down a couple of extra positions courtesy of that contact between himself and Stephen Wilson.
Oh, crash in the background though. A car going sideways. Is that Norris? Yeah, I think it's Norris dropping down the way, as a Blackburn I think was involved there. So Pev gets up a position. I think Hawkin as well. Norris continues to go down as he's obviously trying to get back facing the right way, and that has not been the lap or 2 laps that Norris would have wanted. Up there towards the top 5 and is now going to be way outside top 20.
Yeah, there is another look at Christopher Norris, who drops down the order yet further, unfortunately. Like I say, I mean, in these kind of races, if you can survive up towards the front for a couple of laps, then you're basically on for, well, I wouldn't say a decent result, but, you know, you're at least fulfilling your dreams. Abel Torres making his way up the order, just making his way past Jeffrey Decker, squeezing out a little bit, though, going through the first of those left-handers, and then Decker into the rear end of Torres and going for a bit of a half spin for his troubles. Going to lose out a couple of positions here, as likes of Niguez of Darson will also make their way through. So Abel Torres, despite being that driver, by the way, who got spun round at T1 when we saw someone, I can't remember who it was. It might have been Sancinelli that came in too strong in T1. That was Torres, the one that was basically spun round with all that, and he still managed to work his way back up to 13th. Having a great evening.
As it goes Pev down the inside, trying to make it work in that number 6 machine on Blackburn. That obviously will slow his run down up this back straightaway, up towards the kinks of turn 2, and then in towards the heavy braking zone where we're seeing so many moves being made. Pev comes to the inside now, doesn't quite get far enough on the brakes, although Blackburn going in a little bit too hot. That might give Pev the exit as we come out of turn 3.
Yeah, certainly so. And by the way, gap for the race leads now under 2 seconds. It got down to 1.5, jumps back up a little bit towards 1.8, but Garrett Viton is going to be under a lot of pressure pretty soon. Here is Peo Pev then looking to the inside of Tyler Blackburn, commits to it down to Schlossgold, and might well just be fully alongside. Could be Blackburn out a little wide here through the 4th corner as they go through this constant right-hander up towards the that tight left-hander, 3-5 up towards 6. Let's see if there is going to be the move done by Pev. Not normally one to do around the outside here in these kind of cars. I don't really have the aero to hang you on around the outside there.
Yeah, this certainly does. We get Noiguez and Darson having a bit of a battle. So Soraya involved for 14th place. So yeah, it's amazing to see on the tower. The battle's just working their way up and down all the time. As Pev now to the inside, in towards the final couple of corners. Can he make it stick? Yes, he can. Lovely bolt with on the brakes. No, he can't. No, he can't. That is too deep. Way too late on the brakes. And that is how he got past so easily, but couldn't make the corner.
Yeah, I was going to say, just kind of based on that trajectory, I was like, there's no way he's made that corner. Unless he's basically been given that move completely. There is no way that he's made it, and he didn't. By the way, Torres and Bowen, the ones that we're looking at right now. Torres in the lead Fordzilla car is the one that's just moved his way past Bowen up towards the into the final corner, really, up towards T1. Abel Torres up into 12th position. As you can see, Jose Soria out way wide through T1 along, I believe, I was going to say Jeffrey Decker. I'm not 100% sure, but someone else was also very, very wide through that first corner. I think it was actually Decker with the pink highlighted next level racing car. So that is an interesting one. And he's just sent one down the inside of Barham Darson up towards the turn 3, and it didn't work. Clearly.
And not quite as you come to the front. Actually, Reynolds has had such a good race, and he's caught the last couple of seconds as Viton starts to struggle with the rear tyres maybe. 1 and a bit laps to go, and the 66 is coming for this race victory. Yeah,
I do remember Blake Reynolds also did struggle in the previous race with tyres late on, but right now that doesn't really matter at all, because the likes of Stephen Wilson, the likes of Alfredo Marlowe, they're way too far back to fight in. We're about to head on to the final lap of the race. Big slide as well coming out of the final corner. It's going to be side by side up towards towards that first turn. Garrett Viton on the outside, on the right-hand side of shot is Blake Reynolds making his way through with the inside run up towards the first corner. But of course, Garrett Viton's going to send it in as hard as he can. The 22 is not going to be able to hang on, and it is going to go for a bit of a spin, unfortunately, at that first corner.
Yeah, just too keen on the power and he's going to be losing some places. So Wilson gets up onto the podium on the final lap with Marlowe following him, and look at Viton there. As he is smiling though, he's having good fun, was leading the race for so many laps. Unfortunately, couldn't quite hold on to it. So Reynolds looks like will be taking the victory today, but that doesn't take anything away from the facts of obviously these drivers maybe not quite on the same level as some of the top guys, still putting in a really good effort.
I mean, he finished the previous race in 36th position. Yes, did qualify in 15th, but still did a good job to at least hang on for a lot. I mean, longer than pretty much either of us would have been able to hang on from the likes of Blake Reynolds, who has put on a very good performance in this race, hasn't he?
He certainly has, and as you say, struggled a bit at the end of that first race, but has just been so strong in this second race. Came through massively on that first lap and then just picked them off one at a time in this second race as well. And the 66, with 2 corners to go, has a clear track ahead of him.
Yeah, certainly so. So picks off the penultimate one down towards the final. Blake Reynolds, who started from the mid-pack in this race after dropping back in the previous one. He finished the previous race in 21st. He's going to finish this race 20 positions better than that in first place, as Blake Reynolds crosses the line to take the second race victory here in the Next Level Racing Team Fordzilla Mustang Madness community event. Across the line Reynolds goes, as Smith will take second position, looking back towards Peo Pev, trying to work his way past Tyler Blackburn at the final corner, and is not able to do so. Wilson managed to get himself onto the podium, by the way. Aaron Smith, Alfredo Marlowe in 4th position, then Viton unfortunately dropped back to 5th before we saw Hawkin, Iglesias, then Newton, Blackburn and Pev across the lines. A couple more battles here just outside of the top 10. Calvary's just been fighting with everyone for the entirety of the race, although I'm pretty sure that is the same for quite a few drivers on this grid. I think they've literally just had 18 laps of intense racing.
Yeah, there's 1 or 2 battles during the race that I can remember. It looks like it was pretty much every corner, actually, that these guys were overtaking, and that is great to see. Kuba there. Wasn't he up towards the front?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, he's actually involved in a couple of incidents. He's going to be finishing quite a way down. There's Zach Christie, who led the race for some time at the beginning as well, the first couple of laps. Unfortunately, making a mistake. He will finish down in 36th place.
Yeah, it's a big shame for Zach Christie, of course. Did start this one from, well, I was going to say from pole position, but let's be honest, I had that apparently. Sorry. Obviously started this one from the front row, finishing down the order, about 37th position. I'm sure you'd be a bit disappointed in that, but hey, that is sometimes how it goes. That is racing, especially in this style of racing. You know, you just try to hang on at the end of the day. Hanging on is what Blake Reynolds did, who took victory 5.2 seconds clear of Aaron Smith. Stephen Wilson worked his way from 46th, we'll remind you, to 3rd place in this race, taking a race victory and a 3rd. I mean, I'm pretty sure that is top honours over the evening. Alfredo Marlowe in 4th position did a really good job basically to follow Wilson through. Garrett Viton leading until that final lap of the race, finishing down in 5th. Brandon Hawkin up in 6th position with Jose Iglesias, and then Jeff Newton, Tyler Blackburn and Peo Pev. Of all of those, I think Jeff Newton might be the only one that kind of started in that vein and kind of finished in it. Garrett Viton also in that vein, where they started up towards the top end of the order and finished roughly inside the top 10. Then we've got Vigileone, Abel Torres, who had a bit of a difficult time, almost getting back-to-back top 10s. Bam Haflerdarsen, and then Jose Sorry, who was out wide at T1 more times than I can remember. Calvar in 16th place with a tight battle across the line, almost getting Jose Sorry as they got there. Noiguez, Norris, Decker, and then Dibdale rounding out the top 20. Vartin finished in 21st position with Keenan Kusin in 22nd. Then Wes Graham, Adam Briggs, Winkler, Zabelski, then Sean Cole, about pretty much where he finished in the previous race. Luke Mitchison in 28th position, then Alex Lewis, and then Aaron Jackson rounding out the top 30. Chi Kuba, as Cam did point out, was involved in a battle higher up inside that top 10 before an incident that dragged him out of it, just finishing ahead of Jason Thomas. Jonas Gunnarsson, who was one of the stars of the first race, finished in 33rd position, then Harold in 34th. Carson Catlin once again on the lead lap with Colby Pierce, then Zach Christie, who started it from the pole, Chris Cuthbert, and then Matt Malios. Edgar Sancinelli got involved in a pretty intense fight down in towards the first corner, drops down the order to 40th. Then we've got Martin, Clampett, Hartin, Vunneberg, and then Weatherby rounding out the 45 car grid. We've had some pretty intense battles though, Cam. That is a way of putting it.
Yeah, that was, to be honest, a great piece of action. Here is the winning move as well, coming up towards turn 1 for Reynolds. It was, a night of action that we were expecting, to be honest. And it was exactly what I expected, with the fact that we had loads of action, a little bit of chaos, but there was some really good racing in there as well, to be honest. Some nice side-by-side battles, and good to see like the faster guys in the reverse race come through somewhat cleanly as well with the overtakes that they were making.
Yeah, certainly so. Well, I think we'll jump into the interviews in just a second, and we'll catch up with a couple of our drivers. We've got Aaron Smith here, of course, just comes off finishing in second place. Talk to us about that race, because let's be honest, when it comes to chaotic races, that would probably rank pretty high up there for most drivers.
Yeah, I had a feeling we'd see chaos in turn 1 there on the last heat, but unfortunately we got it and I was able to get past it. But it was unfortunate for everyone involved, but it certainly gained me quite a few spots there. But I drove back up through the field and the car felt pretty good until I went and locked the tires up into turn 4 or 5 or whatever the corner is there on the downhill. But I didn't think I was going to be able to get to second place, but it seemed like the leader made a mistake in the first corner and gave it to me, so I'll take it.
And how did you find this, the car track combination? Obviously, something that's quite a bit different to what you're normally expecting with this sort of car. How was that really working out for you?
Well, it felt pretty good, to be honest with you. I mean, I'm a firm believer that stock cars put on the best road course racing of anything on this service. So to be able to run these here, it certainly played into my what's the word? Shoot. It's not coming to me right now. The
wheelhouse
driving style. Yeah, there we go. It played right into my driving style and almost came out of it with the win, but it was just one step too late.
Well, Aaron, we'll let you get off and have a good evening, because it's been a fantastic race from you. Thanks, mate.
Yeah, appreciate you. Thank you.
There we go. Solid efforts up towards second place through that one. Aaron Smith just joining us in the commentary booth. Next on, we'll be joined by, though, of course, is our race winner there, Blake Reynolds. I mean, let's just go from that race. To have started from 26th, to have worked your way up the order to finish in first, you got to be pretty sweaty right now. That was mad.
Yeah, definitely stress-inducing. I did not think the grid was that big. When I made a mistake in the first race, and I was like, oh man, I'm starting way down the order. And then there was an invert. I'm like, oh, okay, but I'm still starting 26th. So, yeah, I just picked my way through the first lap traffic, and then it was, I don't want to call it easy pickings. Garrett definitely put up some pace there, and I only caught him on the last lap, but it was pretty good after that.
And in that first race, we saw you dropping down a little bit. Maybe were you struggling a little bit with the tyres there? I just wanted to ask you, how did you feel like with the rear tyres at a certain track like this? Because there's a lot of corners where you really need to push them on the exit.
Yeah, incredibly high speed, first of all. I mean, such skinny tires. I mean, these are wider than the previous iteration stock car. But this new stock car does have the wider tires, but still, they overheat pretty easily. So I locked up a tire a couple times in the second to last lap of that first race, and then on the last lap I really screwed up into the turn 3 hairpin, I think it is, and then turn 4 that's where I went off way in the sand, and I couldn't get going out of the sand after that. I recovered back in the 20th or something, but big mistake there, but glad to have recovered and gotten first place here.
Wow, Blake, I mean, again, massive congratulations. We'll let you go off and enjoy that one. What an effort. Well done, mate.
Yeah, thank you.
What a stunning drive from Blake Reynolds to have worked up from the mid pack up the order. We do also have Garrett Vitton, who's going to be joining us here. Again, that was a bit tough towards the end there. A tough pill to swallow. But I mean, I will say you put on a great effort there and just about managed to hang on inside the top 5. Talk to us about your race, about almost hanging on there, almost keeping Blake Reynolds at bay.
Well, it was a lot of fun. First off, definitely a car track combination I've never run before. I knew Blake was a little faster than me. I was just watching him on my relative just slowly get that the gap get lower and lower. But Yeah, I just was pushing a little too hard. I accidentally shifted into first gear when I normally take that corner in second gear. And I didn't realize it, and I went to throttle up, just caught a little bit of curb, and she went around on me. But was able to recover quickly and finish in the top 5. Definitely not going to complain about that. Really stacked field with Steven Wilson, Blake Reynolds, a lot of high caliber racers for sure.
It's a lot of fun doing races and events like this, isn't it? But like you say, to have a field full of such strong individuals in this car, was that ever on your mind coming into this, or is it more just sort of like, look, we're just going to go into it, we're going to have a fun evening, and we're just going to see what we come out with?
Oh yeah, I mean, nothing's on the line except probably some bragging rights, and I know there was some good prizes awarded too. But yeah, we just came in, gonna have a good time. The first race didn't go to plan, spun out a couple times, but then I was just like, hey, we get a second shot at it. We'll hope. We just started just outside the top 10, got through lap 1 chaos. My reaction getting through it was very enthusiastic, that's for sure. It was just absolute chaos, but it's about what I expected. But yeah, definitely a fun evening for sure.
Well, cheers, Gary. Once again, we'll let you get off because I'm pretty sure you'll be sweating after a race like that.
Sweating, but I still got a lot of the day ahead of me for sure. But yeah, thank you guys for the host. Really appreciate it.
That is a good point. It's one thing that we forget, Cam, isn't it? Over here in Europe, it's getting quite late in the evening, so over there they've got a lot to do through the day. So each their own.
Yeah, it's about 2 p.m. still here on the west coast of the U.S., so still got a whole day left ahead of me.
Well, cheers, pal. We'll let you jump off then. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. Have a good evening, guys.
Perfect. Well, we'll get Keenan Kusin also in here because, again, we'll catch up with as many of our drivers as we can. It has been a stacked grid. Keenan, talk to us about your reading, because you've had a bit of an up and down one. You finished in 22nd, I think, in both races, actually, there. I mean, let's be honest, that's not the story of the race, though. You were up and down the order quite a bit in both of those.
I mean, first race was a lot of fun. I didn't get a lot of practice in, so kind of coming up through the field, and obviously there's a 50-car grid and a bunch of people, different skill levels. Stuff's going to happen. So we got knocked back, and coming through the field was a lot of fun. The second race, we really don't have to talk about lap 1, turn 1 if we don't have to.
I think we might have to.
I forgot how to brake and killed like 5 other people, but they seemed pretty cool about it. And then again, driving through the field again, there was a lot of fun. But that's kind of what these races are for, just to put on a show, meet some new people, and enjoy my Next Level Racing ERS1 sim rig, available now at nextlevelracing.com.
Goodness me, he's coming after my job after race. I mean, you go for it, mate. I mean, let's be again. We're talking about this with a couple of people before as well. About these events are just so much fun to come along and do. Yes, I know. Yeah, there's prizes and stuff up for offer, but are you really thinking about that coming into it, or is it just about let's go out, let's have a good evening, like I say, meet some new people, make some new friends, enemies. We'll dot the line between the pair of those. It's just about having fun, right?
Yeah, like every time I've come out of these, I've had a couple of people, that I've kept in contact with. I met Wes Graham, I think, on the last one. Diesel Chikuba, somebody that I know pretty well now. So to come out of this every time with a couple of new buddies is kind of the main goal, and try a wacky car track combo and try to represent NLR as best I can. I think the goal is always, like, there are prizes, like you said, but I think the goal out here is just to come have some fun and meet some new people.
Yeah, for sure. Well, hopefully you've made a couple of new friends. Maybe you'll keep in contact with as well after this one. Keenan, thank you, mate, and have a good one.
You too. Have a good one, guys.
Cheers. Well, there we go. Again, another couple of interviews. I wonder if we might be able to grab another couple more, because I'm sure there's a lot of good stories out there on the grid of what has been an exceptionally difficult day, but an exceptionally fun one. Cam, I'm sure there's a lot of sweaty drivers out there.
Yeah, it's certainly an intense form of racing, and the format obviously helped that as well. It didn't make it easy especially for the guys trying to obviously get into the top 5 to win the prizes that we're offering today. So definitely something that they had to work for, and the track combination as well. The corners come at you very quickly, as they were saying, and you of course have to work for it in a car like this. The car doesn't necessarily want to do it. You have to really force it. It's that sort of old school racing that we like to see.
I do agree with some of the comments in there that these cars do race really, really well on road courses, and I think we've seen very much that throughout the entirety of this year, as well as what we've seen in the event so far. It's not just though those that were out on track that were winning. We did also show 5th through 3rd of the Ford's biggest fan giveaway. Let's take a look at who finished in 2nd and, of course, who finished in 1st. Well, big thanks to the pair of them, and of course all of the drivers that have been, all the people rather that have done and taken part in the Ford's biggest fan giveaway. I'm sure that it's always good to be a fan of Ford, but I mean, I was saying, looking at some of those things, I did like the little Ford F-150, by the way. But I've got to say, that livery is fantastic, isn't it?
Yeah, also the nitrous bottle in the back of that Raptor. That was awesome. I'm sure that kid was getting places very fast. Then of course, the winner there, that's Rap. To be fair, that would not have been cheap. You're committed to the brand at that point.
Yeah, that is that was indeed mega. Let's talk a little bit then about the event that we've had, about that win from Stephen Wilson the first, and he was always kind of like leaning towards being the favourite coming into it. So fair enough. His experience within this, obviously driving in NASCAR and the such. It was leaning towards it being Stephen Wilson. He's one of the more experienced in this car. But Blake Rance did a really good job in that second race to have pulled his way through to the front and put on a really, really good show.
Yeah, just a shame for Blake in terms of the overall positions, combined for the two races. They dropped back in that first race, but still great recovery drive. Managed to obviously avoid all the carnage, had the pace in that second race and made the moves pretty decisively as well. Didn't get too flustered by that one. And obviously, with Wilson, we did expect him after qualifying to be able to come back through in the reverse grid race, but to almost win the race, I wasn't quite expecting that. I did think maybe sort of 10th place or so, but yeah, to get on the podium is a great result.
Yeah, I do think. I wonder if we can bring up the prizes once again to see what everyone was fighting for in all of that. Because there were a few prizes up and down. Again, winner is, and I'm just going to take a wild guess that it is Stephen Wilson, but obviously that'll be all confirmed post and all that stuff. Winning a Next Level Racing GTElite Ford GT Edition, which is what we did see in the ads between the two races, as well as the Team Fordzilla official hoodie, cap, and socks. Because why not? I mean, let's be honest, every sim racer does need a few extra pair of socks. Second place, which I think is a bit more up for debate. Obviously, that'll be done behind the scenes. I think it might be Alfredo Marlowe, though, that could potentially be walking away with the Next Level Racing HF8, as well as the hoodie and socks. And then P3 again, we said official cap and socks. P4 gets the cap and P5 gets the socks. Not 100% sure as to who's going to be picking up those, but it has been a fantastic evening. I'll take one of everything. Cam, final thoughts on the evening. We've had a lot of fun.
Absolutely have. So yeah, big thanks to Next Level Racing, Team Fordzilla, for putting on this event. It's been a great community evening, and the racing was absolutely entertaining, so can't get much better than that.
Certainly so. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you for all of our competitors, by the way, for coming along and putting on a bit of a show. For everyone that took part in the Ford's biggest fan competition as well. And from myself, Lewis McGlade, from Cameron Roger, and from Hugo Luis, who's been dancing everything behind the scenes to make sure that we're trying to keep up with all 45 of our crazy competitors. It is a very warm good night from us. Thank you so much. And until next time, bye-bye.